Every soul is a candle.
This is Creative Spirituality. Phillip Namanworth, and welcome to everybody who's here now and who'll be tuning in and who'll be listening at a later time. Just to let you know, thanks to Shlomo's hard work and Stephen and everybody else, and Lindy, we are on YouTube. If you just check out Creative Spirituality, my name, the classes are there. So if you want to tell anybody, or if there was something that you particularly wanted to review, you can just go do it, which is great. I know it is for me. I sometimes like to listen to some of the classes and to see what, how they flowed or how things arrive. Hello, Stephen. Because no matter how much we prepare in life, the best moments seem to come spontaneously. It's like musicians who practice, and in the concert, something happens that you can't even know it's going to happen because you're in the midst of the creative process. And when we get together, we all draw creativity from each other. In other words, you're sitting there, I'm sitting here, whoever's sitting wherever, and we have our own ideas about things. Our weeks went a certain way, but then you hear someone else talk, and it elicits from you parts of you that might have been wanting to come out and be revealed or to be discussed or acknowledged that you weren't even aware of. So many times you'll hear someone saying, I had no idea that that was going to happen in the performance tonight. That's just the way it is. And it's nice that our whole lives, which are not a performance, but we are performing a life, that many things can happen that we didn't really expect might happen, but they're all within a good realm. And the more one studies and learns and discusses matters that are of a certain caliber, the more one reinforces oneself with ammunition, so to speak, to draw on. Like there's always the mind is always busy. The mind is not quiet down. It always is on, because it says the thought process is the closest to the soul, and the soul is constantly kind of humming because it's always alive and vibrating. But if you don't have a basis or something to be thinking about, it could take you in any direction at once, good, bad, or the otherwise, wasting time or nonsense or neurosis or or something that's not so uh, important at the moment. Whereas you actually have more control, you can by filling your mind with certain kinds of subjects and spending time with them and learning how to think on a higher level or how to learn. I remember when I was first starting out in this adventure, many of my teachers would say, we're going to talk in learning. Or they would say, we're going to learn how to learn. And I would say, what do you mean we're going to learn how to learn? You talk, someone listens. But that's not true. There are many things that our mind does when we learn that are counterproductive. In the same way that when we speak to people sometimes, or you speak to people, sometimes you feel like they're not listening. Well, they are listening. You don't know, and they can tell you back every word you say, and yet you might feel that they're not listening, because listening is an art. It's interesting. I was reading, and it's a wonderful book called The Aspects of the Novel by E.M. Forster, a very wonderful English writer. He wrote Passage to India, and all kinds of great stuff. And he's talking about the difference between fiction and history. And just writing something down as an action that happened. But a novelist or someone who's trying to tell a story has the ability to tell the things that are beneath the surface that cause things to happen. You can read history and it says Napoleon came back from Elba and and he went to war against all of Europe. Okay, those are facts, but the inner side of the person who's involved is always a subject. Sometimes a person will do something and you'll say, well, I wonder why I did that. I wonder why I called that person today. Or it's just sort of self-reflective, where on the one hand, we shouldn't try to answer questions by referring to the thing themselves in the answer. That's called recursive. But on the other hand, there are reasons behind, and if a person is interested, first they have to know that there might be a reason why we do them. You could talk to some people and they say, I don't know, that's what I always do. And a lot of us have that, and there are many things that people just always do. They always want to have the Italian food rather than the Chinese food that night, or whatever, or the blue shirt instead of the red shirt, or whatever. And then there is some things that we do in response to others where we're more accountable. Because when we're in conversation with each other, when we gather together, we have the certain responsibility. I can tell you what my responsibility is because I learned it from my teacher. Someone once asked Rabbi Simon Jacobson, my teacher, you know, how do you prepare to give a class, or what is a class? Which I asked him many times. What is it that when people come together? And he gave a wonderful answer, which I'm not so sure I can always fulfill. But he said, look, you're getting together with people to spend an hour. You want to make sure that's the best hour that you can be spending, that you're not wasting time, and that there's something important about it in some way. It's a responsibility. It's not chit-chat about one thing or another. So having said that, does anybody know any good jokes? Oh, only kidding. But even that. So sometimes you meet someone and you haven't seen in a while and you say, well, gee, I wonder why I met this person today. And things come to mind. You haven't seen them in a long time, or there are many reasons for things. So we're starting the Torah again. In fact, the Torah we're starting over again because we finished reading the entire 5 books of Moses. Moses dies. I always cry when I'm reading that on the mountain, and it praises him and said there was no prophet ever that was like Moses ever, after or whatever, who spoke to God face to face. There was just this kind of intimacy. And when you discover by reading there what happened between Moses and God, there was a lot of arguing. It wasn't just, okay, you say it, I'm going to do it. And this is, Hashem, I've got all these people who are fighting with me, or how can we do that? Or how can you do that? Intimacy involves many ranges of emotion. And those emotions come with creation itself. We start the new year with a slew of holidays which are packed with spiritual, emotional, intellectual, material energy that you're going to use for the entire year. And we're going to unpack them. It's like you're getting a gift. No matter what level you're on, no matter how little or how much you do, each person is receiving a package that they can open during the year. Now, it doesn't mean that we always understand everything when we hear it. I remember listening to the Jupiter Symphony by Mozart in school and studying it or whatever. And then one day walking home from school, and I would hear the whole thing in my head, and I sort of understood something about it. It's just things come to you when you get them off your mind. But you want to make sure that what you're loading up with is stuff that you want to be involved with in your life. And this is your chance and this is your choice. So, Brian, do you have your copy of the book I gave you? Do you have it? Can you open it? I want you to read from the beginning, okay? We're going to be talking about beginnings. Moses' passing was the beginning of another stage in Jewish history. Are we reading something over again that we actually read before? Well, the words are the same, but we're not. It's very interesting. You have it? You can turn to page 3. He's going to look it up. He turned himself off for a while. You'll see that in the Talmud it says all beginnings are difficult. Can you turn to page 3? You have this book too, Uncle Stephen, if you want to open yours.
Uh, which name? I really don't know where exactly it is right now.
What do you mean right now? You mean you knew before?
Well, I have to look on the shelf.
No, it's one book. You should find out where it's hiding.
Which book is that? What's the name?
The Chumash, the stone Chumash. Got it, Brian? Okay, unmute yourself there. Hello, Julie. Hi, Noam. Nice to have you with us. Brian, do you want to unmute yourself? Do you know how to do it? Because we can't hear you. All right. So we can't hear you, Brian. There's, there's a thing in the towards the left bottom corner. It says audio just to your left on the bottom. Just put your cursor near there. It'll come on. All right, you got it. Pace, put yourself on. Can you put yourself on, Pace?
Yeah.
Okay, so read. This is the beginning of the whole. Oh no, Brian's there. Brian, can you
Yeah.
read?
Yeah.
Can you read the first that page
I'm
there?
trying. In the beginning of God's creating the heavens and the earth, when the earth was astonishingly empty with darkness upon the surface of the deep, and the divine presence hovered upon the surface of the waters, said, God, let there be light. And there was light. God saw that the light was good, and God separated between the light and the darkness. God called to the light day, and to the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning one day.
There we go. One of the most famous lines in all of all creation. It is the. You notice right off. It says in the beginning of God's creating. It does not say in the beginning. The Hebrew for in the beginning would be barishonah. This says Bereshis bara Elohim. In the beginning of God's creating, there are many words for creation. Bara means creation, and Elohim is one of the names of God. And if you look over on the Hebrew side, Brian,
Yeah.
is one of the first letter, is it the same size as all the other letters?
Right. You're talking about
The
the
base.
bat?
Yeah.
Right. It's
What
bigger
size
than all the other ones.
is it bigger?
Yeah.
Okay. In the Torah scroll, that first letter, which is the second letter of the alphabet, is bigger than the other letters.
Right.
And we're not saying that there was a beginning because God is more, not infinite. We're saying in the beginning of his creating heavens and earth. What we sometimes mean by heavens is stars and moon and stuff like that. And the earth is where we live. In a grander scale, heavens, earth relates to all of material existence, everything in the material universe. And heavens relates to the spiritual worlds. In the beginning of his creating the heavens and the earth was astonishingly empty and void. Now, this is a whole, anybody reads Philip Dickens' science fiction novels and great ones, he's telling you the world was a mess. He created this thing and it was void and it was full of chaos. We don't really think of creation starting that way. And there was darkness upon the face of the deep. The deep what? And the divine presence, okay, hovered over the surface of the waters. V'ruach Elokim merachefetz al hamayim. Bereshit bara Elokim. In the beginning of God's creating, the word bara means to create something out of nothing. Now, in our life, we can't picture nothing. And you can't, and it doesn't make sense to call God nothing or what was there before, which we can't know nothing, but it's not within our existential realm to know what it was. And the name Elohim, we see when we read the Torah, they use the name Hashem, they use the name Kael, Hashem, Tzvos, Adonai, Shakai. There's all these names. The name Elohim is the way that spiritual energy interacts with creation. There are other names that do not interact with creation in the same way. So right away, and we have, that's amazing. I don't know what anybody's talking about yet. And the first letter is bigger than all the other letters. So I've got a number of questions here. Why are we starting with the letter base? The first letter in the alphabet is Aleph. Why not start with the beginning? In the beginning. Why is this letter bigger? In fact, there are three size letters in the Torah. It's actually tuned a little bit like a harp. A harp is tuned sort of like to C flat. And the people using the pedals can kick it up a notch to C and then C sharp. I don't know if you knew that, Julie. It's wild. And all the letters in the Torah are normal sized letters. Some of them are smaller and some of them are larger. Even if we don't know why, we still have a question. The Torah is starting off by saying, open your eyes to creation. There are things all around you every day that you can notice that have a question on them. You are here to reveal what the questions of life are. The name Elohim is the same gematria. Now, gematria means each letter in every word has a numerical value. The name Hateva, which means nature, people have an idea, it's the natural universe. Well, there's no God. It's just the way nature is, pantheists. It's all nature. Nature is how God hides his essence, so that we will come to reveal that essence in the things that we do every day. So we're starting off with a new year by saying the energy from last year is gone. You've got a new energy, and look what's you're going to do with it. You're going to walk into a world. It's going to seem chaotic, but my spirit is going, which means my purpose is always going to be hidden within it. And then it says, God said, let there be light. So what was first, light or chaos? It was chaos. But there was no sun or moon, so where's this light coming from? What light are you talking about? Because when were the stars and the moon created? Fourth day. Like any good business person, it's good to start off with your mission statement. The mission statement in the Torah is that there should be light. But I'm telling you right off, it comes from astonishing darkness in your life. It comes from the things that are hidden. When you reveal the truth behind things, you reveal the light of essence of creation that was there since the beginning of the creation. And God saw the light was good. Well, he didn't know the light was good. And he separated between light and darkness. But it says the earth was empty and dark. So the darkness came first. So what comes first in our lives? A revelation or a darkness? And what comes from what? From the darkness, Hashem said, let there be light. That's why we see in the book of Koheles by King Solomon, the wisest of people, he says, the advantage of wisdom over ignorance is the advantage of or min hahoshek, light from darkness, not light over darkness, light that actually comes. That's because a person is stuck somewhere, because a person has challenges, because things seem astonishingly void and chaotic. What we learn from those things is a gift, and that gift reveals the secret that behind everything is God's energy. And God called the day, the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening and there was morning one day. Who can remind me the difference between cardinal numbers and ordinal numbers? What is 1, 2, 3, 4? Is that ordinal? And first, second, third, fourth, are those cardinal numbers or ordinal numbers? Anyway, this one says there was evening, it was morning, there was one day. Now later it's going to say there was a second day and a third day, but the first day doesn't say there was a first day. That would be Yom Rishon. It says there was a day of oneness. Before all these things separated themselves, everything was mixed together within the creation. It was all part of the oneness. In fact, what does it say here? There was evening and there was morning one day. Which came first? Evening, morning. That's why we start our day at night. It's not just someone said, I got a great idea. Let's start when we're going to sleep. No, it says there was evening and there was morning. There was darkness and there was light. It's sort of like yin and yang, but they exist together. You can't have a life without having both things. To have something that's called a day, a real day, there's going to be darkness and there's going to be light. The goal is to reveal the light of everything that is hidden. But what we feel is, since Hashem made the universe, that everything is hidden. And we can blame everything on God because of that. It's not so revealed what it is. It takes a lot of work to get to understand, to form good relationships, to have peace. But Hashem is telling us, not only did I make the world that way, but you're going to be part of this world, and you are going to have the ability to do this. So that's not a bad opening. If I was editing a book that started this way, I'd have to say, yeah, let it stand. But you know me, I don't know. We'll take it to Random House, though there's nothing random in the Torah. Bereshit bara Elokim eis hashomayim ve'eis ha'oretz. There were basically, some people say the world was created a number of times. But I wanted to read it because some people have never really read the beginning of the Bible. It's amazing. You have to understand that the Greeks and the Romans and all the scholars of medieval times, non-Jews, studied Hebrew and knew the Torah. It was part of their scholarship. Now it continues. God said, let there be a firmament in the middle of the waters and separate between waters and water. So we're already lost here, and there's chaos, and then there's light, and then there's water, and God's Spirit is floating over it. But why does it have to tell us that right away? Because when you understand that the world was created this way, and that the true existence is not what you feel is existence, you get to understand that there's purpose. There's Ruach Elokim, the Spirit of God, which means the reason that creation came into being was on the face of the deep. You were born is God's way of saying you matter. You have a purpose, whether you ever thought about it or not. You're here for a reason. You are part of the creation. Now, when we speak in Torah, and you know this from many of the other classes, we speak about above and below. Certain things are lower, certain things are higher. In order for those concepts to have any meaning at all, there has to be something that's lower. What is that lower something? That's the place of the most concealment, where you look around and everything looks like it's made out of concrete or wood or this or that. So the physicists, atomic physicists, know that the molecules are moving inside all these things. And there's something higher, which we call heavens, but that's still within creation. There is a part outside of creation, what we call ayin, nothing. In other words, you can't say what God is, so to speak. It's better to say, you can sometimes say what it's not. It's not a person with a white beard sitting in a chair throwing thunderbolts when you're bad. It is definitely not that. However, we can be in contact with this thing, with this essence that is part of us. Because you're going to see, I hope everybody will read the first chapter of Bereshit. Please do. It's, it's a matter of being literate in our culture. On the sixth day, it's going to say, and God created, first of all, it says, God said to his helpers or whatever, whoever they were, let us make man. You're going to see a lot of very strange statements. And God created man, but it doesn't mean man. It means man and woman together, mankind. But Tselem Elohim, in the image of heaven, in the image of God. Each person, there were no Jews yet. It was just humans. The original plan was for all humans to reach a certain spot. However, we were given free choice. The only way you can actually have free choice is when certain things are hidden. And this is why the world is created that way. Except when you have more and more experience of something, whatever business you're in, music, arts, making pillows, whatever you do. The more you do it, the more you understand the essence of how it works and who's got to be the suppliers and what's inside and what could go wrong and this and that. You gather experience, and experience colors the way you see the world. So since the things are basically on some level hidden, we have to develop techniques of seeing the world. So the Torah provides a cosmic interface for how to view everything in your life. It says in the Pirkei Avot, which is a Mishnah, Chachma v'chachma v'kulo bo. Turn it and turn it because everything's in it. In other words, yes, you know, it's not like I'll read, oh, okay, I'll read some of this now, I'll read a self-help book to see how I should behave. No, it's all available to you. Because as we've said before, in the end, when you really experience something deeply, it's you talking to you. We sometimes, someone will say, on that day you said something to me that changed me, just helped me out. That was you being your essence without knowing it, and someone else feeling it. And since you were feeling it, they could feel it from you, and they could reveal something just because you were being in yourself. So when people talk about, I wasn't raised religious or anything, we didn't know that these kinds of conversations were available. We didn't know that that it encompassed every molecule of your existence. And also, it gives you a sense of confidence. It's supposed to give you a sense of confidence that what you have is what you need to perform what you came here to do. Some things we don't have, and it doesn't mean you can't work harder for them. There's nothing in the Torah that says don't work hard. There's nothing that says don't get rich. It just says you have a responsibility to yourself. And that responsibility comes not only with a sense of wonder, but as we've just learned from these holidays, a sense of joy. In the end of all the holidays, the last thing we're left with is joy. Because if your life's not joyous, what good is all this knowledge? And what do? We just dance around with the Torah. We drink. We wear out our shoes. We embrace life, even in the midst of all the difficulties. Thank God the hostages are home. Don't worry, the morons are still out there. But by gathering together, we have a strength that's beyond anything you could have yourself. We've discussed before that Shabbos is related to a Oneg Shabbos. You could have a lovely Shabbos by yourself if you have to. But when a person gets married or a bar mitzvah, a wedding, or a celebration, you want other people there. Because a simcha, joy, really is brought out when there's more people. They say if someone is a little depressed, bring them to a bringing. Take them somewhere where the ideas are popping. Get them out of themselves, because we are all cosmic interfaces for each other. You don't always know why you're speaking to someone. We don't always know that. All we know is that we want to try to express our essence wherever we are and whatever we do. So are we really beginning again? Well, for many of you in this class, you've read through the Torah, I know, a number of times. And for me, I know I've read it maybe 30 times, probably 40, maybe, and studied it. And each time it's different. Because having experienced a certain kind of interaction and relationship with something greater than ourselves, even if it's on the level of I don't really know anything about that, and I don't know if I believe it or how to experience it, but just being involved in it. Some people say my mission in life is to find out what my mission in life is. This is okay because you're always alive and vital if you're learning and moving ahead. And the problem that people have sometimes is to get in a thing where one day feels just like the day before. And that's depressing because we concoct this idea that this is our future, that nothing's ever going to change. We're all around us. The weather, we had Indian summer. We had until the end of September, 80 degrees. I mean, it doesn't usually happen, people. So we are entrusted with this knowledge, but it was given to all people. Now, for those of you who studied the Torah, we know that the first bunch of generations had the choice of what they were going to do with this and decided to push their relationship with heaven farther and farther away. They worshiped idols. They decided to act like animals instead of humans. No one made them do that. There's an interesting thing, a wonderful historian named David McCullough. He says, you have to remember when someone acted in history, it didn't have to be that way. Well, of course, if you believe Hashem made it, that's different, but he's not talking about it. He said that something else could have happened. In your life, the same thing. Now, it doesn't mean we should beat ourselves up for the way we acted in the past, but what happens next is most important. And I have the ability to decide what I'm going to concentrate on, what I want to share with other people, how I want to feel being around other people, how I want to feel that I'm here to do a certain job. But the first 20 generations before Abraham is the 21st generation from Adam. The first 10 generations brought on the flood. No one made them do what they did. They decided, yes, we understand how things work, but hey, I'm having a great time. I live to be 1,000 years old. I planned something that lasts for 700 years. I'm into partying. Then there were people all along the way who remembered Enoch, Noah, his grandfather, Methuselah, but they couldn't make an impact. Hashem's original desire, it says, was that for all people of the world to build a home for godliness in this world. And that still goes. And things only changed when Abraham came along because he reached a level of inquiry about the nature of the universe using all the philosophy, everything that was known at the time, and came to the conclusion that it wasn't up to him to find God so much as to let God in, that there was a level of consciousness. And beyond that was a level of subconsciousness. And beyond that was a level of superconsciousness. He kept digging and digging until he realized there were so many levels, but the basis of that level was what we would call oneness. And it says that his name was Ha'ivri. The world fought him. Aver, the word Ivri comes from the word Aver, which means on the other side. It means the whole world was on one side and he was on the other, upholding the ways of Hashem, reintroducing them to the world. Sometimes successfully for his son Ishmael, no much, but more for Isaac. And then finally through Jacob, and he built a family. And Hashem transferred the goal of making this world a home for him to the Jewish people, because they were the ones who were maintaining reality. It wasn't meant to be that way originally, unless you could say, well, God knows everything that's going to happen. So, but you in your life, in your environment, in your home, in all the places you go, have the power to change the atmosphere by your connection to things that are greater than yourself, and by a question, being related to yourself in general, relating to other people, introducing people to certain concepts, human kindness. There's two Talmuds. One's called the Yerushalmi, which was written in Israel in the third century. And then there's the Talmud Bavli, which was written while we were in exile, the Babylonian Talmud. And why didn't I bring that up? Says that in the Yerushalmi, because the vibe in Israel was so open, answers to things came more smoothly. But when we were in exile, we had to have all these arguments. So the Talmud Bavli, which came later, which is authoritative, it's usually sages arguing about something. Now, why do we argue? Besides this, sometimes we provoke each other and we're mad or we're crazy. The sense of disagreement and argument comes from an attempt to get at the truth. You have some piece of it, I have some piece of it. Let me tell you mine. Let me show you why I think it's good. But let me listen to yours. And this way, by putting ours together, we can pull down a truth that was hidden. But it only comes from the brainstorming. Any business does brainstorming. Even writers on TV, advertising agency, they do brainstorming because it has to be, you have to pull down what's hidden into revelation. So Abraham and his family were given the job of bringing light to the universe. And the other nations were given the 7 Noahide laws to make the world an orderly place and bring light in that way. But it was originally, and this still goes, every human being is created in the divine image. You have a choice. At first, we don't know what I'm choosing. Well, what is this talk? I have to go to work every day. Most of my thing is 95% of the time paying my bills, dodging bullets, and this. What are you talking about? Having a choice. In every moment, how you see the world is up to you. Or after you get over your initial, after you get over your initial reaction. This comes to Brian's question always of which candle am I? Which candle am I means what are my usual habits? How do I usually hear something? Do I panic at first? Do I go, oh, that's not true? What do I do? It's important to know what you do, because then you can decide whether it's appropriate in the moment. Because how can one response to the universe, unless it's deep, 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 be adequate for everything that comes up? There is one response. The Baal Shem Tov says in the Psalm number 16, verse 8, Shavisi Hashem lenegdi samid. I've always got God in my mind. So this is a proper response, but it doesn't tell you what he's going to do in the moment. Some people think, I always have to help everybody and give them what they want because that's being godly. Well, is it? I don't know. Let's discuss it. Let's see how it works out in life. I had a very close friend of mine always say, I always help everybody without asking a question. Nobody wants to help me. I said, what do you say yes to everybody for? You're taking your time. You just have so much time you can give it away. Not that I want them to do any less or do any different, but
front door.
Who said something? Did someone say something? A question? Do you have a question? Okay. Um, so it's really exciting when you to study and say, I live my life this way. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to share this life with other people and my family? Instead of having my Jewish education be what happened to me in Hebrew school, or not having anything at all, or growing up in a super liberal home where that was godliness, you need something to measure it against.
Well,
Would people please mute themselves? Stephen, will you mute yours? Thank you. It's Rav. Make yourself a Rav. Find yourself someone, but get yourself some friends. People you can talk to on a level that might make life worthwhile. And some people use books for that. Some people study. Some people go to see art. We all need to have time by ourselves, and that's what davening is about also. We start our day in a bubble of holiness. First thing we say is, thank you for giving me back my soul. We say some prayers, but by the time we're ready to move, we have to go to work. Most of our lives are spent in engaging with the material world, because wherever we've been placed and whatever we do is Bereshit bara Elokim. It's a new day. What can I reveal here? So we don't see the creation of humans until the sixth day. So Rosh Hashanah is it's the birthday of the world, but it's not the birthday of mankind. It is the birthday of mankind, but the birthday of the world is the 25th of Elul. So just some straight facts. And then later in Exodus, it says, Sheshes Yomi Mosah Hashem, 6 days God created heaven and earth. So let's take that as a sentence. 6 days God created heaven and earth. So people who understand English would say, well, wait a minute, don't you mean in 6 days God created heaven and earth? But it doesn't say that. It says 6 days God created heaven and earth. And on the seventh day he rested, whatever that means. I didn't know God could get tired. There's a lot of questions. 6 days means 6 energies were put into the universe that would repeat themselves every week on a cyclical cycle. And the seventh day is always going to be a different energy. Sunday, the first day of the week, has an energy of chesed. Remember we talked about the candles? 7 candles on the menorah. What are they? Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yisod, and Malchus. We'll always be repeating these. 6 days where they were created. The first day is called Chesed because God made everything. Here it is. Here it all is. It says 1 day. On the second day, it's interesting. It says God separated the waters. In other words, he caused the ability for things to be diversified and cause problems. So if you're reading the account of creation, there's 1 day on which it does not say it was good. The second day, that was the day of Gevura, the day of might and strength and separating. Second energy that came into the universe. The third day, it says good twice. This is the day of harmony. This is Tuesday. This is why Tuesday is such a powerful day. And it's probably why Monday gives everybody such a hard time. It's not just that you go back to work. It's the day of Gevura. It's the day when things were first separated and then reconciled the next day. The fourth day is called Netzach. And we've seen that. What Netzach is endurance. And the fifth day, which is Thursday, is called Hod, which means humility and honor. And the sixth day is when mankind was created, is called Yesod, bonding. In other words, feeling at one with the things of my life, seeing what they're in balance and where they're not in balance, seeing where I feel comfortable and where I don't feel comfortable, and learning to be a little bit uncomfortable by being around things that are of a higher level and that feel uncomfortable. When you're an artist, I remember growing up playing piano. We would listen to these musicians that would just, they were so unbelievable. It's just, but that's how you learned. You weren't going to be them tomorrow, but that's how you learn. Something sets in when you talk to people who have kindness. There's a Rebbe in my little shtibel up here, and he's 100% Mesniras Nefesh for God. He's always on, he's always on doing the right thing at the right time. And God bless him. And to be around him and like being around teachers is just a wonderful thing. I'm not on that level. I have my job, he has his job. But you learn from being around that things rub off on you. And we should never forget that because things rub off on our children. They don't do what you say naturally, but they do what they saw. If the house was warm and they felt safe, even if they fought with you for 20 years, they remember the warm and the safe and they want that. And our people who we study with are our students and friends and colleagues. And we share as family members. What does sharing mean? Sharing means I have the courage to be who I am. It doesn't mean you do it without tact. It's different than saying, I am, that's the way I am, and too bad if you don't like it. We're not into that. Because you have to have consideration for hurting people's feelings and things we say. But a person also has to be careful about mixing in a certain kind of company where bad stuff can rub off on you. It can. How you spend your time. But then again, it's just like the first generations of creation. It's up to you to decide. Here's the difference between an animal and a person on some level. You can decide that even though I'd like to do something, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to delay gratification. Animal's hungry, he's going out to eat the antelope. You can't stop him. You have the ability to make these decisions. And as we've said previously, this is why they call alcoholism a spiritual problem, because people are making choices that can differentiate you from the animal, but they're making bad choices. They're spiritual choices because their animals can't make those choices. I'll wait to do this. I won't just keep stuffing my face, even though it's it's a buffet. Do I have to eat everything just because it's kosher? Your hand is. It reminds me of a song I once wrote for children. From the floor to his hand to his mouth, everything goes in. They don't know what they're doing. From the floor to his hand to his mouth, and well, we can act like that. You get in there, and Jews always eat before they eat. So if there's an affair, there's always an outside where everybody's eating, and that's before you eat. And so I'm going to just suggest, since we're starting the Torah, read this parsha. Look at the commentary. It's one of the greatest things in all of history. In fact, it is the greatest thing in all of history. But many of us know our Shakespeare more than we know the Bible. I have friends that can quote every line and talk about Hamlet in all different perspectives, but They don't know who Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or Sarah, Rivka, and Rachel were. When these people are basically your relatives. Did you ever watch that show with what's on Finding Your Roots on TV? It's a great show. And let me tell you something. I can draw every one of you, your family tree, where it starts. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah. Find out who they were. Don't wait to find out just you had a great grandfather who once got arrested by someone or did a good deed. We can go way back. We have that available to us. We know who they were. We know what they stood for. And we know that Hashem, through thousands of years, has kept us alive because of our connection to the Torah. And it's okay to know that. So on this Parshat Bereshit, I give everybody a bracha that this is the beginning of your recreating this year for yourself. You've already got under your belt a month of cosmic energies that's waiting for you to use it. It is not the end of last year that you just experienced. It is the beginning of this year. Take everything with you. Take the awe of Rosh Hashanah, the sanctity of Yom Kippur, the friendliness of Sukkot, the joy of the holidays. All of that has been given to you in packages. And by continuing to study, you keep opening up the gifts that were given to you. And you can just continue to be wonder and amazed at all of the glory of existence itself and Hashem's love for the Jewish people. I'm going to give everybody a bracha for a good Shabbos, that everybody should be safe and the hostages should be well, and we should get back the bodies of those who are left behind, and Hashem should turn the wickedness of the wicked on them and just let them make their own whatever. I want to say Fruah Shleimah to Pesach Ben Yomen Ben Keli Yitte. You should feel better. Shendel Pesel Bas Brina, Rivka Bas Estabasya, Shoham Eliezer Ben Rivka, Aaron Ben Shimcha, and all of us who need help in any way. May God bless you with everything you need, spiritually and materially. And this is Phillip Namanworth saying, thank you for tuning in to Creative Spirituality. God bless.
Every soul is a candle. Every soul is a candle of God, sent down to this world, to your special